Our second reader tonight is Steve Trenam. Steve teaches poetry writing at Santa Rosa Junior College. Blue Light Press published his book An Affront to Gravity in 2021. His work appears in Pandemic Puzzle Poems and in the ekphrastic poetry book Canyon, River, Stone, and Light. He's a founding member of Poetic License Sonoma. Other poems appear in the Redwood Writers Poetry Anthologies of 2022 and 2023, California Writers Club Literary Review, Moonlight and Reflections, 9 Sonoma Poets, Valley of the Moon Press, December 22, as well as Larry Robinson's and Jerry Jazz Musicians online publication. His work was also part of Reverberations 3, an ekphrastic art exhibit at the Sebastopol Center for the Arts, and he has been a judge for the 2024 California Writers Club Poetry Short Story Contest. In early 2026, 3 of Steve's poems will be published in the Psychological Perspectives Journal. So let's welcome Steve Trenam.
Yes, of course.
Too far, too close? I don't know. What do people say? That's right. I used about a 58 font so that I could see it. I'm going to start with a rhymed couplet that I exchanged with my 7-month-old granddaughter, who arrived a few days ago from Portland, Maine. It goes something like this. I think she's got a future. Today is a good day for words, particularly poetry. The 2nd of February happens to be the 142nd birthday of James Joyce. The publication of Ulysses occurred on Joyce's 40th birthday, and 17 years later, also on February 2nd, he first read From Finnegan's Wake. So today is a good day to be reading poems. Here are a few of mine. This first poem is for my daughter, whose name is Eliana, and she arrived too with her baby. Portrait. On my professor's desk, a black and white close-up taken from above D.H. Lawrence seated at his desk. No color to distract, a focused gray artist with a pencil in his hand. 1,000 words could not have equaled this photo's impact. A photograph of this caliber was to be taken of me and my family, a gift for Father's Day. The photographer kept putting us in front of or next to furniture. He refused to take a photograph of the 3 of us on the bed unless it included the bedside lamps. Balance, he called it. What I wanted was close-ups, every nook and cranny in focus, a detailed account of what nature and nurture had done to our faces. I held Eliana looking over my shoulder and made the photographer get close. He said, "It's not going to turn out." What turned out was a 1-year-old staring into a photographer's soul with a gaze so riveting, so intense, she turned his notion of composition into the cover of Good Housekeeping. 28 years later, another photograph, this one in color, brilliant reds and orange, Stravinsky's Firebird, blue eyes piercing the spotlight with the ferocity of a raptor, the audience her prey. My daughter is a retired ballerina. She hasn't had applause for a while. And this next poem was written before my granddaughter's birth in June, and it's entitled Expectant for My Granddaughter to Be. I like to believe at times my imagination rescues the ordinary from oblivion, that the murk of everyday life gets into my poems. My 17-year-old ragamuffin cat, Misha, speaks to me of aging. In his lifespan, I see my own compressed. When you first meet me, I will be an old codger, a single Meyer lemon growing orange on a leafless branch, a small harvest moon aging in place. But giving over to age is not the same as giving in. I am getting to know you even in utero. I already know you consider brie a staple of your future diet. And the long, sinuous fingers I saw in a sonogram will play the piano. Your mother might have been a concert pianist had she not been a ballerina. Of course, you could be a dancer too. In a couple of months, those strong legs of yours will propel you onto the stage of life, a glissade any audience would adore. You will be multilingual like your mother, and if you run a red light on your first driving test, you won't let it ruin your day. You will go for a hike with your dad, who has always taught you walking is the best form of transportation. You will paint with one hand and write with another. You will pay attention to your surroundings and carry a notebook. You will live your life with the muscularity of risk. You will fight the tyrants of this world for freedom and equality. And you will find a way to assist the disadvantaged, as your mother has done. And perhaps above all else, art will permeate and elevate your life, no matter what form it takes. Now take your first breath, little birdie. The sky awaits you. Thank you. This is for Harriet, who we've already said is among us. And I entitled it, Question Everything. The no and nothing is the yes of everything else. Today is the sun's birthday, and your fragility is intense. Every frail gesture has the power to enclose me. What is it about you that opens and closes, haunts me like a never-ending rain? Do I need a wider embrace? Life is an endless question mark. Doubt everything, sworn promises, the art of drowning, and afterlife. Doubt everything but the light of a wordless moon weighing us down. Question everything but this, the buoyant gravity of your presence and its effect on me. You are an open window to the rain. An occasional love poem never hurts, right? Some of you may be familiar with this bird. He's local. I remember in 1959, I passed what used to be the Katati airfields, which is now, I think, a trailer park, or at least the last time I looked. And you would see this marvelous bird hovering over the fields, looking for mice. It's called Elanus. A white-tailed kite, poetry in flight, hovering in place with falcating wings, resisting the pull of the big blue. From his perch on air, He can spot moving prey a mile away. He makes an easy target for any young boy with a gun in a hurry to prove himself. Bicycling home from Bodega Bay, I find one kid's proof on a barbed wire fence. Still alive, left wing hanging. I wrap him in a towel, nestle him into my backpack, pedal to the vet's, shoulder joint shattered, nothing to be done. I take him home, force feed him ground meat for 3 days. Up close, eyes of explosive amber, wreathed in black. Black shoulder patches on gray wings that won't feel flight again. From the ground looking up, the bird is all white. Elanus lucerus majusculus, endangered for posing on air. I bury him where the only thing above him is the sky he once owned. In 1959, I mentioned the Cotty airfields. I counted 60 pairs nesting, and it was the first sign that they were coming back, that they weren't going to be extinct. So you can still see them. This next poem is another love poem. It's called Being. I am the swirling pleated skirt of the seasons, a slicing sweep of 6-foot wings. I am a hole in the sky, in the shape of the moon, letting the sun shine through. I am a sudden swell of smoothing your shore. I am a great blue heron draping ribbons of my passage along a tree-lined stream. I am a lone oak standing in a field on this glistening global stone. But none of what I am will ever be the equal, will never be the equal of being loved by you. Like Don, I have to include a family poem. My father was nervous before crowds, sort of like I am. And, well, you'll see. Stage fright. My father was a wood carver. He would pull a charred chunk from a bonfire and carve the saddest elephant you've ever seen. All his carvings were one piece, exacting work where one slip of the knife could cleave a giraffe's leg. He also spent hundreds of hours in our basement crafting neckerchief slides and kits so the Boy Scouts could make them at camp. He was once called upon to speak before a large gathering of scouts and their parents. Many of the boys were wearing his slides, a fist, a headdress, a Viking, an albatross, King Kong. My mother and I nervously watched him approach the microphone. He held up a piece of my grandmother's Gramsci apple tree and demonstrated how not to carve toward yourself. Applewood is incredibly hard. The knife slipped, almost severing his thumb. Blood spurted everywhere, his new shirt, suit, down into his shoes. My mother leapt to the stage, tried to stem the flow with Dad's neckerchief, to no avail. Appropriately, the slide he was wearing was Excalibur. Almost as if he'd been waiting for this to happen, the janitor sprang from the wings to follow Dad off the stage with a mop. Earlier that evening, we had eaten a special meal for the occasion. Thickly sliced rare prime rib bleeding into our mashed potatoes. This was once Dad's favorite meal. Thank you. How many of you know or are familiar with Fran Claggett Holland? Oh, wow, terrific. Well, she's got a celebration of her life by a number of poets, some of whom are in this room, on the 15th of this month at the Sebastopol Center for the Arts. And she's 96 years old, and she's even as bright as the poet sitting right there. She's a marvel. Anyway, she has a book titled The Consciousness of Stones. And after you've read poems from that book, you want to converse with stones. So this is called Confluence for Fran Claggett Holland.
Put a little closer to the mic.
Why don't you speak up?
Sorry, this is better.
Yeah.
It's hard to get it to where I'm close enough and can still see. Confluence. This poem is not about the stone thrown across the stream's surface, or the sound of it hitting the water, or how many skips it makes because of its shape. It is not about how the stone settles to the bottom and changes the stream's direction, however slightly. It is not even about the act of throwing. After entering the stream's embrace, it is about how the water's burnishing flow smooths the stone enough to be carried in my pocket for the feel of it. Harry, what is this? Carnelian. I'm glad I forgot that word instead of some of these. All right, this is one of my landlady's favorite poems, and since she's here, I'm going to include it. It's a bit of whimsy and speculation. It's titled, If the Moon Fell. If the moon fell, what good would it be just floating a bit offshore, its unrelenting brightness no longer distant, the entire city sleepless? Waxing, waning, missing, ashamed of its pockmarked complexion and lack of gravitational pull. Tides gone, the shoreline now tiresome save for the moon's slightly bobbing presence, its luminosity no longer having anything to do with the sun. Perpetually full, but never again filled with romantic notions. The sky is darker, shadows are deeper, and sanitation workers are chipping away to remove it from the landscape. Still, I'd like to have seen the splash. All right, this one is about the largest mammal to live on Earth. It's called amplitude. Blue whales have hearts the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. This dauntless organ pumps blood into arteries a grown man could crawl through. Having been on land and found it wanting, they returned to the sea where they could move about freely, breach the surface, and perform resounding re-entries, belly flops that the envy of any corpulent 12-year-old boy. They can grow to be 100 feet long and outweigh a garbage barge bursting with plastic waste that would cover the entire state of Texas. They are larger than life. I'd like to glide with their ponderous grace and wave across the waves at the human display on shore. Their singing can be heard across entire oceans. They carry in their enormous bodies a bonded love for one another. And within all that immensity, a single spindle cell to conjure unbearable sorrow. What they must feel for humanity making of their world a watery grave. I couldn't resist this poem to be included tonight because recently I saw on a movie channel The Black Stallion. Anybody ever not seen that film? The scene that woman director filmed without music, without sound, of the boy on the beach with that stallion is one of the most magical scenes ever to be filmed. Every time I see it, I'm just enchanted. So this is a little word depiction of that scene. It's called Mount. A 10-year-old boy, an innocence of freckles, burnt umber hair, and observant blue eyes that slowly opened to discover he's alive. He's on an unblemished beach, having just been rescued by a black Arabian stallion, himself tangled in ropes meant to keep him on board. It is the beginning of a poem written on the wind and sea off a rock-torn coast of Italy, a friendship forming along a shoreline untouched by humanity. The stallion is too tall to mount, so the boy lures him with seaweed into surf where it's deep, then swims up onto his back, and they are off. There follows the boy falling into sand, then rising through water to try again. He hangs on with a fistful of mane until he rides with no hands at all. Arms stretched out in the air, they are one. I've got two. One more? I timed it was 19 minutes. I've gone on longer than 20?
Yep.
All right. So I'll skip this one and
Shauna, she's mean.
I'll end with a love poem as I started with one. This is called Seams, S-E-A-M-S. Am I not close enough?
You're good.
Okay.
Go ahead, sweetie.
Seams. In my truculent youth, I would take my radiant body outside to steam against the frigid moonlight before going back into her bed once more. That road is now taken by the adolescent jogs of younger men, and I am off the beaten path that rambles on without me. I no longer seek to shock the cold night air. I now slip into the warm embrace of your comforter to sample your lovely bones with a more focused, gentler touch. You fashion from falling leaves the autumn fabric of my being. You do not sew hastily. You work my ragged, rough-hewn edges until my seams lie gracefully over your supple length and breadth. You are even more inviting than the bowl of ripe plums perched on the windowsill, scenting the morning air. I do my very best to lead you astray. My hand goes gently there. The tips of my fingers chasse down the small of your back, over its scar-sown hollow, transforming that soft, pliant surface into an invitation to dance. Thank you.
Beautiful reading, Steve. Let's give another thank you and a hearty clapping for Donna and Steve, and we are going to take a little bit of a break. Please come up and make purchases of their wonderful books, and we'll reconvene in about 10-15 minutes.